In this video I'm going to cover two games which often get compared to each other, and although they do play very differently, they do scratch that same itch. Of course I'm talking about Blood Rage and Cry Havoc. How to play the games, because there are videos on YouTube that do that far better than me. Cry Havoc though is an asymmetric, card driven game where you're battling for resources. Got a lot in the box for the money. I paid £25 for my version, which was brand new. I'm also going to show you that I've made an insert and painted the miniatures such as they are. The battle system is totally different to Blood Rage, and the board is huge. Cry Havoc, like Blood Rage, is a card driven game. However, unlike Blood Rage, you do not draft in Cry Havoc. Each player gets a deck of cards. Now these cards enable you to take your actions, so you can battle with them, you can build with them, and you can activate your buildings and your drones and various other weapons that you're allowed to build along the way. What I've done with the insert is I've made each layer one layer for each player, so it literally allows you to set the game up by giving people their layer from the insert, and they've got everything they need. The pool cards are in the first insert that I took off, which is on the left in this shot, and they are for the initial setup of the game. As you can see, they've got miniatures in the game, and I have painted those for the purpose of playing. This is one side of the Cry Havoc board. Now what I've done here is I've set up just to show the miniatures in their painted form, and these ones here are the Machine Army. Now I've played with these and they're a real battle heavy faction. First time I've ever painted miniatures which are essentially robots, so it was a nice challenge for me. I'm reasonably new to painting, so I do like a challenge. The second army here that you're looking at, the faction, are the Trogs, and they are indigenous to the planet. If you're playing a 2 or 3 player game, they stay in play and they are trying to defend their planet that you are trying to mine and take the resources from. It's an area control game with combat. However, if you're playing a 4-player game, somebody can control the Trog faction. You then get the human army. As you can see, I've painted these with their armour in gold and silver colours. Now this army here, I've not played them yet, my son has played them, and they're quite a balanced army. All of the factions are very asymmetric. The next army we're looking at here are the Pilgrims. These are the people that pitch up to the planet and they get points just for mining. So they're not as battle ready as the other factions, but they can make their points up in other ways throughout the game. Quite an interesting change from the other factions. Every time you play the game it is slightly different if you play with different factions. As I say, it's quite a large board and it's two-sided. Earlier, the board has got two sides. The first side is for a 3 or 4 player game where someone's controlling the Trog army, or you've got 3 units, so there's more space on the board. The other side of the board is a smaller area which allows you to have a 2-player game, so it's more compact and you're going to likely to be meeting up with the enemy more often. This is a very good 2-player game. The game is card driven, but you do card drafting to build the best hand you can for the style you want to play. The cards themselves are rather small, but detailed with good artwork on them, easy to read, and when you're playing a battle, you select a card, lay it on the table, and you all turn over your cards at the same time to see who's going to win control of an area. I do like painting miniatures and pieces in a board game. Blood Rage was actually one of the first games I painted, although I did sell my first copy that I painted, and this is the second. See, the figures and miniatures in this game are actually a lot more detailed than Cry Havoc, but then from Come On Games you wouldn't expect anything else really. Cry Havoc, the factions or clans as they're called in Blood Rage, are all basically the same. You have a leader and you have warriors. These can be improved with monsters, which we'll see later on in the game. But the main mechanic of this game is the card draft at the beginning, which determines how you want to play the game. You can card draft, build some good combos with a small deck building element. This is the second game of Blood Rage that I've painted, as I say. Really enjoy painting this one. The miniatures are superb, and I tried to keep a theme with the colours so that on the board they're easy to see. This is the Wolf Clan. This second clan is the Raven Clan, obviously a lot more armour than the first clan. And with these ones, obviously I wanted to keep the blacks for the Raven aspect, but I do like to bring a bit of colour in, so I've got the reds and the blues, so that on the table, again, they're easy to see and easy to spot. Now when I do painting, I always use brushes. I haven't got an airbrush, and I tend to use Army Painter paints, purely because they were the first ones I bought, and I even buy some generic paints from Hobbycraft and other places. The Bear Clan, and I've chosen browns and various shades of Barbarian Flesh because they are more barbarian-like than some of the other factions. Again, I tried to keep the colours tied into each other so they're easy to see on the board. I admit I'm not a great painter, but I enjoy painting. And I really do believe that when you paint a game, it does bring it to life. Now, I've played this at my local game store, and I have to say it drew quite a lot of attention. Not because of the game, it was because a lot of people hadn't seen it painted. Because it's a lot of work, but I generally think it's worth it. Clan in the game is the Serpent Clan. Now, this particular clan are females. Now what I wanted to do with these was, again, as I tried to do with most of the other figures, I want to make them look different. So as you can see, I do the hair colours different. Because we don't all look alike, they don't all look alike, and there are only certain things you can do in order to make some differences. I've also done these in yellows and oranges. Now what I try to do is I look at the artwork on the box and on the cards in play to try and tie that theme in, which again makes it easier for the players to see what they're doing and who's who. And if it ties in with the rest of the game, I think it just makes it a lot easier to play. More interesting miniatures. This is a dwarf, and he's one of the monsters faction. Now they are not a separate faction. You can actually introduce these into your play. This is a dark elf, and as you can see, I've left the bases on these plain. I haven't used any colours because the game provides coloured rings to place on them when you bring them into play, so you can match them to your clan. We have a zombie here. I quite enjoy painting zombies. They're easy, you don't have to go too much detail on them, and they can look grubby, which washes can sometimes do. This is a Valkyrie. I decided to make her a light blue, as I had originally done a purple, and she looked evil, if that makes any sense. This is a witch who doesn't seem to be wearing an awful lot of clothes, but again, one of the monsters you can bring into play. The final set of miniatures are the larger monsters. Again, they be brought into play as you go through the game, but these are a bit easier to paint because of the size of them. This troll here is actually the first miniature I ever painted with Blood Rage on the original box set that I sold. The second one here, the fire giant, I used pieces of cork and PVA glue to make the base and the lava effect. That was an idea that I got from Zarastro's painting guide on YouTube. Please, please, please watch Zarastro's painting guide if you want some painting tips. He is phenomenal. The sea serpent was quite fun to paint because I'm trying to get the sea to look real and also to give him a glossy effect as if he's wet. It's again something slightly different, but you've got free reign. Thoroughly enjoyed painting the ice giant, frost giant as he's called, because again it allowed me to do something different and use the snow effects. Rage and Cry Havoc. I love them both. They scratch the same itch. I would say as a two-player game, Cry Havoc for me is a better option than Blood Rage, but they are both tremendous games.